The moment the music swells, everything inside me freezes. I slip into the last row, brushing sand from my shoes, and glance toward the altar expecting my cousin's groom. But the man standing there, gripping trembling hands together, is the person I kissed goodbye this morning. My chest tightens as he stares forward, pretending not to see me, while my cousin waits just behind a curtain of white roses as if this is the most normal moment of her life. Whoa, guests murmur. Confused by my sudden stillness and heat stings my face as I fight the urge to run. My mind spins, begging for a reason that doesn't exist, but every breath confirms the same cruel truth. Why is the person I love standing at an altar he never told me about? And worse, why does everyone here act like I was never supposed to find out? What would you do if the person you trusted most was about to marry your own family member? How do you stop a wedding you were never meant to witness? My legs feel like they belong to someone else as I push through the aisle, each step heavier than the last. Conversations fade into a thick hush, stretching across the room as though the walls themselves are holding their breath. Evan shifts, unable to hide the panic flickering across his face, and Marissa's smile collapses into something sharp the moment our eyes meet. I can taste the salt in the air, the sting of betrayal mixing with seaside wind, and the entire scene wavers like a dream I'm desperate to wake from. I reach the front row, my voice trapped behind a tight knot in my throat, and every guest leans forward as if waiting for someone to name the disaster they already sense is coming. The officiant tries to speak, but his voice cracks as if even he doesn't believe what's happening. Evan steps back, eyes flicking desperately between me and the woman he's meant to marry, as if searching for an exit that doesn't exist. Marissa moves closer to him, tightening her grip on his arm, her expression stretched into a warning no one else seems brave enough to interpret. My breathing grows uneven as I notice the families watching us with an unsettling calm, their silence almost rehearsed. It feels like I'm the only one who didn't get the script, standing in the middle of a scene that everyone else prepared for long before I arrive. A shaking heat spreads across my cheeks as I finally manage to whisper the question clawing at my throat. The room contracts around us, the floral archway seeming to bend closer, like it wants to listen. Evan's jaw tightens, and Marissa's fingers curl protectively around his sleeve, as though she owns the answer. Guests try to pretend they aren't staring, but every pair of eyes burns into my skin. The waves outside crash harder against the rocks, a rhythm that matches the pounding in my chest. I feel the moment everything shifts, the second where confusion dissolves and the truth begins to take shape, heavier than anything I've ever carried. The silence is so thick it feels alive. Evan finally opens his mouth, but before he can speak, Marissa cuts in with a trembling smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She tells the room this moment is part of the plan, that I'm only here to witness something I apparently misunderstood from the beginning. Her words twist around me like vines, tugging tighter with every breath. Evan's shoulders slump as if he's surrendering to a fate carved out long before he had a choice. My pulse hammers as the truth threatens to break open, and I know with absolute certainty that whatever comes next will shatter the fragile peace holding this room together. The air turns brittle as I follow Evan and Marissa into a side room, the door clicking shut behind us like a trap. My heartbeat fills the silence while Evan rubs his palms together, searching for words that keep slipping away. Marissa stands between us, chin lifted, acting as though she's protecting something precious instead of hiding something rotten. The walls feel too close, painted in soft colors that don't match the tension knotting the space. I wait for someone to speak, but their quiet hesitation only exposes how long this lie has stretched beneath the surface. Every second stretches thin, and each breath reminds me I walked into a celebration that was never meant to include the truth. Evan finally speaks, his voice thin as he explains that his family arranged this wedding months before we ever met, that he tried to end it but was pushed deeper with every attempt to escape. His words spill out unevenly, like he's trying to unload a story he's carried too long. Marissa interrupts, insisting he agreed, insisting he wanted this, insisting I was a temporary mistake he let get too far. The tension flickers across Evan's face, a fight trapped behind tired eyes. And I realize they've rehearsed this argument without me for far longer than feels possible. The room tilts as the truth twists into another layer of confusion, leaving me unsure which version to trust. I press for details, needing something solid, a timeline, a reason, a single thing that makes sense. Evan explains how his family made promises to Marissa's long before he and I crossed paths, how every attempt to break free only tightened the pressure around him. Marissa steps closer, her voice lowering into a warning tone, insisting this wedding is bigger than feelings or second thoughts. Her gaze sharpens as if daring me to challenge her version of the story. My thoughts race, piecing together moments that once felt harmless, but now appear like missing clues. Everything around me feels staged, and suddenly I'm terrified that the truth may be darker than either of them is willing to admit. The door creaks open and both families gather in the hallway, their composed faces forming a wall that blocks any escape. Evan's mother steps in first, her tone firm as she insists the ceremony must continue, claiming too many people have traveled spent and prepared to let emotion ruin the day. Marissa's father nods, reminding us all that this union benefits everyone involved. My stomach twists as I watch them speak without hesitation, their calm masks hiding a desperation I can finally see. For the first time, it becomes clear these families aren't just protecting a wedding. They're protecting a secret that has controlled this moment long before any of us stepped into it. Their pressure hangs over us like a storm cloud, and Evan finally snaps, insisting he can't marry someone while standing beside the person he actually loves. His voice shakes, but carries enough force to ripple through the hallway. Marissa reacts instantly, her expression crumbling into something wounded and furious. Her parents step forward, trying to hush her trembling breath as Evan's family stiffens with embarrassment. Guests peek around corners, sensing something is cracking beneath the surface. My pulse quickens as I watch the moment the polished facade breaks apart, revealing the first real fracture in a wedding that was never as perfect as they pretended. The hallway empties slowly as the families scatter to repair the collapsing illusion, leaving me with Evan and Marissa in the charged quiet. The moment the last door shuts, Evan pulls out his phone, scrolling through messages he never meant for me to see. His hands shake while he reveals threads filled with warnings from relatives, reminders of what breaking the arrangement would cost, and subtle threats wrapped as tradition. Marissa steps closer, insisting those messages prove nothing except his indecision, but her voice wavers as I read the lines for myself. Every word slices through the version of events they painted, and suddenly, the weight of everything they've hidden starts to fall into place like scattered pieces, forming a picture I never wanted to understand. My eyes move down the screen, catching a message that makes my breath stop. Oh, Marissa's parents had been discussing plans with Evan's family long before either of them admitted anything, treating the marriage like a deal rather than a commitment. Evan tries to explain how he thought he could delay it until the pressure eased, but nothing about these messages suggests the pressure was ever meant to fade. Marissa reaches for the phone, but I pull it away, needing to understand why they were both comfortable letting me walk so blindly into their secret. The truth is no longer foggy. It's sharp, cutting into every memory I once trusted. Evan guides us into an empty storage room, a dim space filled with extra chairs and unopened flower boxes. In the close darkness, he confesses everything he avoided saying for months. The prearranged engagement, the expectations tied to family promises, the pressure that grew heavier each time he tried to break away. Marissa listens in silence, her expression tightening as she realizes he's no longer protecting her story. My pulse thuds in my ears as the truth finally unfolds without interruptions. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. It was a cage built carefully around him, and I walked into its shadow without knowing it existed. The silence thickens as Evan admits he planned to tell me after today, thinking the ceremony would somehow dissolve under its own weight. Hearing it break something inside me. He wasn't just trapped. He was hoping fate would save him from choosing. Marissa crosses her arms, insisting he could have walked away at any time if he truly wanted to. Her voice trembles just enough to reveal her fear. Not anger. I step back, feeling the walls tilt inward, realizing the deeper truth. They weren't hiding this because they were embarrassed. They were hiding it because they knew I was the one person who could ruin the fantasy they built together. Before anyone can speak again, a sound echoes from the hallway. Soft footsteps and hurried whispers. Evan cracks the door open just enough to see his father and Marissa's mother arguing in low voices. Their words slip in like sharp fragments, mentions of inheritance, reputation, and a promise made years ago. My breath catches as I finally understand the last missing piece. This wedding wasn't only planned, it was enforced. And the people behind it never intended for love, truth, or choice to interfere. The realization settles into my chest with chilling clarity. Whatever secret they've protected isn't just about a marriage. It's about control. The moment the voices in the hallway fade, I step out of the storage room, needing air that doesn't feel stolen. The corridor stretches ahead like a silent tunnel, the wedding music replaced by an unsettling hum of distant chatter. Evan follows, shoulders slumped, while Marissa rushes after him as if afraid to let the truth drift too far from her grasp. I stop halfway down the hall, turning to face them both, the weight of everything pressing heavily on my chest. The pressure, the lies, the forced promises, all of it pulses through the air like a storm building just beneath the surface. I can feel something inside me sharpening, no longer confused or afraid. If they want this wedding to continue, they'll have to confront the person they never planned on me becoming. Evan tries to speak first, voice trembling as he apologizes, but the words feel too small to cover the mess that surrounds us. Marissa steps in front of him, her eyes flashing with a mix of panic and pride, insisting the wedding must go on because everything has already been arranged, paid for, and promised. Her voice shakes as she claims I'm the one causing chaos, not the years of secrets they buried. I feel anger rise, not the explosive kind, but the slow, certain burn that comes from finally seeing the truth. The hallway seems to narrow, pressing us closer together until the lies have nowhere left to hide. I tell them both, this isn't just a disaster. It's a choice, and they can't hide behind tradition anymore. Evan finally breaks, admitting he can't marry someone he doesn't love. That every step toward the altar feels like walking into a life he never chose. His confession lands between us like a dropped glass, sharp and impossible to ignore. Marissa's face flushes, her hands curling at her sides as she tries to hold on to the future slipping through her fingers. She reminds him of everything their families promised, the expectations she built her identity around, the pressure she endured believing he shared the same path. Her voice cracks, revealing the fear beneath her polished exterior. For a moment, the anger softens into something sadder. A realization that she's not just losing him, she's losing the version of herself she built for this day. The tension snaps when Marissa lunges toward a nearby door, pulling it open to reveal her parents standing behind it as if listening the whole time. Their frozen expressions confirm more than their words ever could. Her mother steps forward, insisting this wedding cannot fall apart because too much depends on it. Reputation, financial promises, social ties, everything carefully woven into a plan they never intended for anyone to question. Evan's father appears behind them, revealing they've been working together, pushing this marriage forward to secure a future built on convenience, not love. Their voices overlap in desperate explanations, layering excuse upon excuse, until it becomes a wall I refuse to let close in again. The argument explodes into a storm of voices as each parent tries to defend their choices, but their desperation only exposes the truth they worked so hard to bury. I step forward, demanding to know what they've been hiding. why this wedding was treated like a transaction instead of a union, and why I was the only one left in the dark. Silence finally settles as Marissa's father exhales heavily, staring at the floor like he's holding a confession too heavy to carry anymore. He begins to speak, hinting at an agreement made years ago, one involving debts, favors, and a promise that bound Evan long before he knew what it meant. My heart pounds as the pieces fall into place. This wasn't just pressure. It was ownership. The weight of the confession settles over us like dust in a room long closed. Marissa's father hesitates, then explains how a promise made in desperation tied their families together. A deal meant to protect status and stability at the cost of choice. His words drift through the hallway, heavy and brittle, while the rest of the parents stand frozen, unable to take them back. Evan's shoulders collapse, as if hearing the truth aloud finally breaks something inside him. Marissa looks stunned, her eyes shining with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief, as if she never imagined her own future was built on someone else's sacrifice. The hallway feels like it's shrinking, closing around a truth too large to hold. For the first time, I realized none of them were in control. They were all following a promise that never should have been made. Voices erupt again, louder this time, as the parents attempt to reshape the truth they let slip. Marissa's mother insists the agreement was made to protect their future, not restrict it. Evan's father claims they only wanted to honor a commitment forged during difficult years. Their excuses swirl like smoke, thick enough to choke on, while Marissa finally snaps, shouting that she was never told the full story either. Her voice trembles with betrayal, revealing she wasn't a partner in this plan. She was another piece moved across the board. Evan steps back, finally seeing how deeply he was trapped, and for a moment the chaos blurs into the sound of guests beginning to gather near the ceremony doors, unaware of the storm forming just behind them. The sound of the coordinator's voice calling guests to their seats cuts sharply through the tension, reminding everyone that the ceremony is seconds away from beginning. Panic ripples through the parents as they insist the wedding must proceed, their desperation showing through the cracks in their polished masks. Marissa stares at the floor, breathing unevenly, while Evan looks at me with an expression that carries both apology and fear. I feel a sudden clarity, the kind that comes only when everything else has fallen apart. This isn't a wedding. It's a performance being forced onto two people who never had a chance to write their own script. And if someone doesn't stop it now, it will become a lie they'll all be chained to forever. The coordinator appears cheerful and unaware of the imploding reality behind the door, announcing that the ceremony is ready to begin. Marissa freezes, caught between duty and dread, her fingers trembling as she clutches the side of her gown. Evan looks ready to run, his breath coming in shallow bursts as he considers the weight of every step he takes toward the altar. The parents exchange frantic glances, whispering urgent instructions, trying to repair what has already shattered. Guests begin peeking into the hallway, confusion flickering across their faces as they sense the tension. My heart pounds in my ears, knowing the next decision will define everything: who gets hurt, who gets free, and how deeply this truth will cut. The moment guests rise from their seats, Marissa suddenly straightens her posture and wipes her tears, forcing a smile that shakes at the edges. She steps toward the doors, ready to walk into a ceremony built on silence, but Evan reaches out and grabs her wrist gently, stopping her mid-step. The room stills as if the entire venue is holding its breath. He whispers that he won't do it. Not now. Not ever. His words land like a bolt of lightning. Marissa's face crumples, her carefully guarded world cracking in one instant. The parents rush forward, panic blazing in their eyes, but it's too late. The collapse has already begun. And when Evan turns toward me, the final truth becomes unavoidable. This wedding is about to fall apart in front of everyone. The ceremony doors swing open, and the music swells as if nothing is wrong, but the tension from the hallway floods into the room like a storm spilling through broken windows. Guests turn, their smiles fading as they notice Marissa's trembling steps and Evan's pale, rigid stance beside her. Or, well, from a right issue. I stand just behind them, feeling dozens of confused eyes flick toward me, trying to piece together a puzzle that was never meant to be seen. The officiant clears his throat, startled by the cracks in the moment, but he continues, unaware he's about to witness a collapse no vow could mend. My pulse pounds as the truth rises higher and higher, pressing against the walls of a ceremony built on lies, waiting for the moment it finally breaks through. The officiant begins the ceremony, but his voice wavers as he glances between the three of us, sensing the atmosphere tightening like a rope pulled too far. Marissa forces a smile, her knuckles white around her bouquet, while Evan stands stiffly, his breath shallow and uneven. Murmurs ripple through the guests, soft at first but growing louder as confusion spreads from row to row. The parents settle into the front seats, their expressions strained, silently urging the ceremony forward before the truth catches up. But the truth is already here, heavy in the air, ready to crack open the polished calm they spent years constructing. Just as the officiant lifts his book to continue, a sharp electronic tone slices through the room. A phone, loud, unmistakable, begins playing a recorded conversation. Heads turn as the words echo across the ceremony. Marissa's parents discussing the arrangement, the pressure placed on Evan, the promise forged out of desperation. Gasps ripple through the crowd as the recording continues, revealing every secret they fought to bury. Marissa's face drains of color, Evan's eyes widen in horror, and the parents leap from their seats too late to stop the unraveling. The guests sit frozen, absorbing every word as the truth explodes in the one place it was never supposed to reach. Panic erupts. Guests stand whispering furiously, some covering their mouths, others filming the chaos as though they can't look away. Marissa collapses to her knees, dropping her bouquet as her world caves in. Evan steps back, staring at his parents with a mixture of disbelief and anger so sharp it cuts through the entire room. The officiant lowers his book, stunned into silence, while the parents scramble to explain, waving their hands as if they can push the truth back into the shadows. But the recording keeps playing, voice after voice revealing the layers of control and manipulation. The wedding isn't just cracking now, it's shattering. When the recording finally cuts out, the room sinks into a stunned silence. Everyone stares at the broken pieces of a wedding that never should have happened. Marissa's parents attempt to speak, but their words die under the weight of what's been heard. Evan turns to me, his voice low but steady, as he announces he refuses to continue, that he won't allow his life to be controlled by promises made long before he understood them. The guests watch with wide eyes, witnessing a choice that should have been made privately, but has now become painfully public. As he steps away from the altar, every whisper in the room sharpens into one undeniable truth. The wedding is over. The guests drift out of the ceremony room in uneasy clusters, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than the chaos that filled it minutes ago. I stand near the altar, watching workers quietly gather the scattered petals as if cleaning the scene of an emotional wreck. Evan approaches slowly, his expression raw, carrying the weight of a future he finally chose to break. Marissa sits on a chair near the aisle, her face blotched with tears, staring at the floor as though searching for a version of this day that still makes sense. The parents linger near the exits, shaken and speechless, the truth they spent years protecting now exposed in the harsh light of reality. The air feels thick, but for the first time all day, it's honest. And honesty, even when painful, feels like the only thing that can rebuild anything from this wreckage. Evan stops a few feet away from me, his voice soft and unsteady as he apologizes. Not for the wedding, not for the secrets, but for letting fear shape every choice he made. His words shake, but they're finally honest in a way they never were before. I listen, numb but steady, feeling the ache of betrayal and the strange relief of clarity. mixing inside my chest. Marissa looks up, her eyes tired and swollen, and whispers that she never wanted to trap anyone, that she only believed what she was told to believe. The parents stand silently behind her, the reality of their actions settling into lines of regret across their faces. For the first time today, no one tries to defend themselves. No one hides behind tradition. The truth just hangs there, bare, uncomfortable, and long overdue. I tell Evan I need time. Time to breathe. Time to understand the damage done. Time to decide if trust can ever regrow from something that was buried this deep. He nods, accepting it without argument. Marissa's voice cracks as she apologizes too, admitting she mistook a forced future for a chosen one. The room feels softer somehow, as though the tension has shifted into something quieter, something wounded but truthful. Guests peer in from the side doors, hesitant and curious. But no one speaks. The world outside the ceremony seems to wait for us to make the final choice. What to carry forward and what to finally leave behind in this broken room. Evan turns to his parents, voice steadier than before, telling them he won't be controlled anymore. The declaration echoes through the room, leaving them stunned but unable to argue. Marissa faces her own parents, her chin trembling as she says she wants to decide her future for herself, not through promises made before she understood the cost. Their parents' eyes soften, the weight of their decisions finally settling in ways they can no longer ignore. I watch it all unfold, feeling a strange mixture of heartbreak and hope. The truth didn't just break this wedding, it freed everyone trapped inside it. And as the dust begins to settle, the first real breaths of independence fill the space where vows were supposed to be spoken. When the venue finally empties, I walk out into the soft ocean breeze. Evan follows at a distance, stopping near the steps, waiting, not pushing, not asking, simply hoping. I turn back to look at him, and for the first time today, the future doesn't feel like a trap. It feels open, unknown, and entirely mine to choose. I tell him we're not done, but we're not repaired either. And whatever comes next will depend on honesty, not fear. Marissa steps outside too, leaning against a column as she lets the wind cool her tear-stained cheeks. Behind us, the venue doors close with a gentle thud, a quiet ending to a day that was meant to celebrate love, but instead revealed every hidden fracture. Maybe this disaster wasn't the end. Maybe it was the first step towards something real for all of us.